Oh,
Hello, welcome to the unThinkMe evening session. We've got your lovely host, Adam, alongside your lovely host.
answer.
Hi. I was wondering when you'd join in the fun.
I wasn't sure when to kick in. I was waiting for you to breathe, and then I was just gonna sneak right in, just like a sneaky snake.
I wanted to mention our friends too tonight because I just noticed I was just cruising around my channel, a thing that I do from time to time, checking the QC on that bitch, and I noticed that one of my videos, the 12 stages of consciousness from their own perspective, had 10,000 views. And this pleases me. I think that I may have even identified that as a goal when I started. Well, that would be pretty cool if that could be accomplished with this. And a lot of time passed, and I no longer really was like looking at that flagpole or anything, but it just kind of occurred, and I noticed, and I was like, well, gee, I feel like I'm doing something right with that one. The very first video on the channel, I will explain this now to all of you. I've never told anyone this, but now I'm telling everyone this, so it's a total reversal of the circumstances. The very first video, I didn't know what unThinkMe like really was. I knew I was going to talk a lot about things that have influenced me ideologically and kind of try to apply them to one another and to like day-to-day scenarios. And I knew that it was going to be a collective community thing. That's about what I had going. So I started out trying to do animations, and I made a kind of gag animation called The Aristocrats Part 1. And the deal that I made with the devil on that day was that if that video gets 50 views, I have to make part 2, which I wrote, but I didn't actually have to animate because animating actually takes a lot of time, even to make junk like that. If part 2 then is to get 500 views, I then have to make part 3. Each part that I make, I have to do a factor of 10 better of a job too. That's a kind of constraint that I hold to myself. So if you want to see more Aristocrats action, go ahead and give that thing a watch. The main thesis is that's not the direction I'm going now, but also that if you interact with these things, that consequences occur. So I also it teaches me that people are valuing this kind of introductory look at integral theory. And so I thought what we could do tonight is have an introductory look at integral theory. I don't think that Spencer really knows what integral theory is. I don't share this with her. It's not really a
I
part
have
of our
read the book, so I have read
dude.
Spiral Dynamics Integral.
Well, okay, then yeah. So then you know the stages.
Yeah,
Not
although
12 though. There's not. It's there. It's a little different in Ken Wilber integral, but that's the stage model. Yeah.
I was gonna say because you referred to what I read as the blue meme as the amber meme, so some things have
Yes.
changed. So I'll be
Yeah.
able to pick up a little bit.
So spiral dynamics model kind of exists in its own universe. It was sort of lifted into. Oh, I shouldn't put it like that, but it was put into the Ken Wilber integral thing at like a certain stage in time because it makes perfect sense as the stage model for that particular era, which was like when he was most popular. So it's like one of the things most associated with him. At the present time, the model is called altitudes that Wilber uses, and it's basically spiral dynamics. It
Well,
has 4 new stages on top because that's part of what Ken Wilber contributes.
and I remember at the end, Don Beck said, he was talking with Ken Wilber, and that Ken was going to be the one that took it forward in the new and expanded. So that's pretty interesting.
It's a complicated history, and at any point in time that you look into it, the story is a little, that it changes. Yeah, like Beck and Wilbur were Beck's the one that took it in the Wilbur direction, more or
Yeah,
less, and
because
then
before
but he
that it
was
was Claire
estranged from
Graves.
it eventually too, to the point where Wilbur's kind of like not anymore like promoting spiral dynamics. He's kind of just like, well, here's my thing that's sort of spiral dynamics, basically, kind of. Called altitudes these days. I don't know if that will stick or anything, but just stages or levels. Spiral dynamics works too. So the differences, beige in spiral dynamics becomes infrared. And you'll
Okay.
kind of see the pattern here is that spiral dynamics is almost the rainbow, but a couple things don't work at all with the rainbow. But if
Was
you
we're not
make it the
supposed to.
rainbow, you can keep almost all of them the same. So then purple is just simply magenta. It's very similar. It's a little more reddy because we're not at the top of the rainbow, we're at the bottom. So I think they didn't want it to be into the blue. I think that kind of makes sense. So infrared, magenta, red. Red's the same. Red would then go into blue in spiral dynamics, but it's amber now, so it's in between red and orange.
Mm.
Right. Amber is like I get into this, but amber is like a dumb color name because like a lot of people don't really have like a simple idea of what amber is. I kind of think it is it's like khaki, but there's like dark amber and light amber, and there's like brownish amber. It's like I don't know. This is kind of the thing about
But this is amber.
total. I mean, you're like into that.
Well, I just wanted to show the rest of the world. Hey guys.
Also fair. Shoe on the other foot. Beige is like not a word that everyone knows. And then so amber goes to orange and green, same as always. And then spiral dynamics, I really liked yellow because yellow just like stood out so much. I don't know. I found that kind of more memorable, but it kind of is staying with the chakras, with the rainbows colors. So it goes to teal, then turquoise, and then you get up into the Wilbur stuff, which I wasn't really going to do today because that gets into states of consciousness. And we were talking a little bit, that's like its own whole universe because it opens so many gateways. What's the integral theory? Like, what's the main, I'm stuck on I got to do an elevator pitch. I'm stuck on an airplane with someone and they're like, oh, you're super, super into integral, right? You watch all these videos on YouTube. You watch the unThinkMe channel. You read Ken Wilber's books. I don't know what the heck you do. Maybe you should tell me what you do if you're into integral. Because I've been trying to figure that out for a while. But let's say that someone's like, tell me what this thing is. And it's kind of hard to do. Before I really knew to figure that out, I would always be put into that position, and it's hard to describe what like any like a philosophical thing is if people aren't already familiar with it. It's hard to introduce that. Integral is not crazy hard to describe because that's what Ken Wilber does. So you kind of have to do something resembling what Ken Wilber does. I don't think or talk anything like Ken Wilber, so the way I present integral is rather different. And that's kind of hopefully what I can contribute to this dialogue.
So do I go what I got from it now, or
what I would encourage you to do, this
okay.
is, do it as you please.
Okay.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law around Spencertown today. But yep.
What I got from the concept was that like our development as one being, how we advance and age and mature, you can sort of reflect that to how we as a species have developed. Albeit the species does take a lot longer time than, our allotted 80, years. Whatever, when you go through that phase, what you learn and what you take from it sort of shapes how the next phases are going to develop. And it can either work out pretty awesome or it can work out, pretty bad. And there's every way in between. So being able to relate to society and another person is understanding that they have a different upbringing, they have a different sense, and trying to understand what they went through their, code makes it easier to curate our responses. Is this somebody who's going to benefit from being encouraged and, just praised, or is this somebody who wants to be challenged, who wants to, have that, are you sure you can do this sort of mentality? And there's all sorts of different ways to approach people. So being able to kind of sense where they came from is a way to sense where they're going.
Totally. I think that's a really astute understanding of it. And it's a very integral understanding of it, applying the stages not only to the upper left or the self system, the firsthand perspective, but also to the group and how the group manifests as a collective entity. Also, I like how you're seeing it in a positive integral way, because there's this thing that I like to get into that I call ascender fundamentalism. It's sort of a disease of early integral thinking or teal kind of pathology. And sort of to use these stages and pigeonhole people and say like, okay, well, I'm not interested in you. You're Amber meme or something like that. This is totally not the point of this model. It's to see these patterns in yourself and in the things you do and in your world. This is not, none of these stages are or should be foreign to you. You should be, to be integral is to become more familiar with them, to interact with them more, to respect them more, to understand that you yourself are red meme. All, once you have it, it never goes away. Once you have a selfish drive, there always is a selfish drive, and you need to nurture it. Yeah, so that's all like a pretty healthy understanding. See, like again, I have no idea where where any of you guys are coming from. So it sounds like you have pretty much just articulated the same thing that I'm going to articulate in my prepared content that I've prepared.
Are we saying the same thing here?
I would say we're green. We're green with one another. That doesn't require a buzzer. That's just a thing we say. We just say I'm green with you. I think, isn't it?
There's no story behind it. We just thought it was funny and we kept doing it. It
definitely came of our fascination with Norm Macdonald's like CDs, and in particular the one where Mr. Fantastic has to explain why he's Mr. Fantastic, and they're like,
"That was Norm Macdonald."
That was actually Norm Macdonald's Mr. Fantastic. So yeah, weird, huh? Because the Norm Macdonald now is so different than he was then. It's like he's become such a different. It's like, oh yeah, that was, yeah, weird. But that's where we get. Yeah, they're saying the same thing here. Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. But also from Harry Potter, there's that awkward cut where they're like supposed to keep talking because they're still walking and they need the shot, so they're just going like exactly. And they just keep doing it's like fading out. Okay. Inside jokes. We're letting you in. We're letting you in on the magic. We're letting you in on the integral and the inside jokes. That's kind of what we do.
Inside. I'm sorry. My hair just miscombobulated. I'm dying. I'm dying. Huh?
We're all dying.
Yeah. We're all slowly but surely.
No, but you're dying quick.
No.
We've already proved that I'm going to outlast us all. I just need one moment, though.
Great. I got one moment.
Well, you should have two.
If people, heaven forbid, if people are puzzled, I'm kind of doing the night stream. I'm bringing in a little bit more of my feminine side. I hope that's okay with you. I hope I'm doing that acceptably well.
We're making connections, guys.
Yeah. So that way you can get more man Adam on your Sunday morning stream. So here we're with the moon, we're the feminine, we're the yin to Sunday's yang.
Good reference. Yeah.
And that might make the broth taste a little different than what a person is generally used to for this channel. I don't mean to be too topsy-turvy, but I think we're going the right way. People.
We're a little less Apollo here and a little more Artemis.
And we're a little less apologetic about it too. And we're a little, yeah, I knew you'd like I should just like send you a dad joke a day and keep that.
Oh, that would be my favorite thing ever.
So cool. Yeah.
Real quick, do you want one? I think I already told you this one, but it was via text. So it's not the same. So what is the difference between an English breakfast and a French one?
I feel like I've gotten this in a text. And you're going to try and trick me here because my mind goes straight for the beans.
It's a lot easier to explain when it's vocal. Or not explain. You don't have to explain. It's vocal.
It's gonna be a language thing.
Ooh, we're on the right track.
Petit déjeuner.
So that's more the word for breakfast. Le petit déjeuner.
Je voudrais les œufs avec le bistec, le jus d'orange, s'il vous plaît.
So
okay, I give up. What is it?
Okay, in England. You have 2 eggs, but in France or in French, one is un œuf.
one is enough.
French for one.
So I kind of set that joke up because I ordered Deza for something like that. I ordered something with if in it.
Oof. We just got like OUEFF. I don't even remember how to spell it. It's really fun. It's like an O and an E right beside each other.
Yeah.
And then there's a UFF. Oof.
They like O like procreated with another O, and there's that thing came out. Like, where did the E come from?
If somebody can explain that symbol in the comments, that'd be pretty cool. I keep pointing at comments that don't exist yet.
How about that? And now there was that one where we requested puke emojis, and I haven't seen a single one. I'm not ashamed of you guys. I'm actually proud of you. Don't just do something because we told you to. Good job. Yeah, you're leaving great comments, and we're so appreciative of your comments, and we hope to not scare you off, really. We hope to scare you in.
Ooh. Scare you up?
Well, we have so many things to do. Last time we were like, what the heck are we going to do? Now we have like so many things to do. Like, we can do this forever. But I do want to fucking avalanche you. So I want to do a similar thing to what I did with James, where I'm going to read this pre-written thing, but I want you to stop me from doing it. I want you to attack it. I want you to comment and react. Like, I don't want to read a thing to you because I don't want to be that guy. The idea is I actually put some effort ahead of time into being like, assuming at the time that you knew a lot less about integral than you do. But it doesn't matter because this is actually more than anything for our Goonies out there unthinking themselves than anything. So we could have just hired an actor to be Spencer today, and she would say that she knows nothing about it.
Oh, my bad. Do you want us to start over and I'll pretend like I know nothing?
No, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
This is great. You're so great. We're having a great time.
Well, I thought we had talked about this
I'm having a great time. No, we did.
Okay.
I like putting people on the spot because we're on the spot. I want to remind everyone that we're on the spot.
There's a
you
spot.
guys, you at home, you're on the spot right now. You're on the spot. What do you think the spot is? This is it. All right. I'm switching windows, which is probably a good thing. I have this habit of like looking at our windows and then I'm not like engaged.
Oh no.
Engage photon torpedoes. Okay. This is a piece called Introducing Spencer to the Integral Perspective.
I'm here.
See, we're doing it. All right. So this is the fundamental conceit of integral theory, that if someone came up and said, I want to understand the nature of reality as it is currently understood by mankind, and I want the most basic, simple thing possible without leaving anything out. Integral theory is the answer to that question. It does not require you to believe in anything. The only requirement is that you're open to it enough to follow the inevitable logic of it. Whether it is useful to you or to anyone to understand or describe the basic nature of reality is beyond our scope. I tend to find it useful. Anyways.
Can you hear this when it goes off?
Does that seem like arrogant? Because I'm working on my arrogance of tone. I'm not sure.
Well, I didn't know if it was going to sort it out like the last thing we tried to do that didn't make a noise.
Oh, no, I don't think it did make a noise.
Oh, no, you didn't hear the...
Yeah. I heard it. That's what it sounded like.
It's more of a...
Oh, it's the shake it. It's the shake it cow?
Yeah, the cow in the can, the moo cow. All right, continue.
For the most simple integral treatment possible, I need to boil it down to three concepts. So integral, the integral philosophy or perspective or worldview or meme can be presented as three interconnected concepts. They are quadrants, stages, and states. So you expressed quadrants a lot, and spiral dynamics is stages. So then there's states. But I don't really want to do states. I feel like those three can adequately describe the reality that we're experiencing. And that's kind of the case that I'm going to make here. It can get incredibly complicated because we're dealing with all of reality here. Literally everything in every way possible. That's what integral does. However, the concepts themselves are quite familiar and easy to comprehend. Quadrants, stages, and states are, from an eponymously integral perspective, the core nature of reality. This is why we are calling this system or philosophy an integral theory or a theory of everything. In physics, they're trying to find a theory of everything that explains all of physical reality. That is only one quadrant, though. So Ken Wilber's take on the theory of everything includes also consciousness and spirituality, as well as cultural and social dynamics, things which don't really have a whole lot to do with the speed of light, gravitation, or quarks, unless you apply integral theory, in which case everything has everything to do with everything. This is Quadrants. So what is reality? Well, there's certainly something happening here. I am, Spencer is, we are, something's going on. Also, there's a world and a universe out there and cities and all sorts of stuff we know nothing about. That's also reality, right?
Mm.
So subject and object, interior and exterior, both are absolutely irreducibly so as this current situation is occurring. Well, actually, it does reduce further, but that gets into states. There's a state called oneness, right? The oneness in question is between subject and object. So it's like a healing of that split. Enlightenment, as can be used, as I use it, as is often used, is the recognition that you made up the subject-object duality, that it's a fiction of the mind. There's no self in here and world out there. It's just one thing. So that's called like a non-dual perspective. I've communicated it here as knowledge, like as words to someone, but it's not something that it doesn't help to know that. It's like it has to be directly experienced. And the problem is that right now we are experiencing subject and object, and it's almost inescapable because it's the entire foundation upon which our mind is built. It's the primary division. We've now divided reality into hemispheres, right and left. We're just saying we kind of make a square and just cut it in half. So that's like our diagram of reality. We are infants who became self-aware of the left and right hemispheres of non-dual reality. So the infant forms this understanding, the first understanding. It's like, I'm happening, but there's also something that's not me happening. So we've split in two, self and here, world out there. Plants don't seem to do that. Blood cells don't seem to do that. Spiders don't seem to. Maybe wolves do a little. Maybe dolphins. At some point, the earliest Homo sapiens started doing that. Once you start doing that, and let's say it gives you a survival advantage and makes you attractive, which it does, well, of course, you'll have some babies and they will learn from their parents how to do that. It's a meme. Literally, not as a Josh, that is a meme. It's infectious. It's an infectious idea. Once you see yourself as a self, you'll inevitably go around training everyone else how to do that.
Ooh, there's a parallel with that. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. There's like a parallel with that where, like the book of Genesis, it kind of we refer to this story about the beginning in the Garden of Eden, but really it's kind of a symbol of coming from, the id to ego, basically learning the difference between good and bad. Before then, everything was great until we realized there was an alternative to great. So that the conception of myself and outside, becoming a society versus a creature.
Yeah. And that's like integral Bible studies. Like totally. It's describing that.
Sorry to interrupt.
We can Bibleify it too. That would be a great process too, to unpack the stages as they occur in the biblical universe, the biblical cinematic universe. So memes, right? Patterns which spread from mind to mind through communication. They can be as simple as how to flip the bird or dance the catamaran, or something as profound as I think, therefore I am. People teach their babies a way of life. Society teaches people a way of life. A way of life, so to speak, is a meme. It's a big, messy, complicated one, but everyone in the world who believes they are a person has at very least that one thing in common, that meme. You a person?
Damn.
Person. So a meme isn't physically real, doesn't have mass or charge or take up space. It's more a conceptual thing. A meme also might not exist in Spencer's reality. I don't know how to speak Japanese. So reality actually contains all this stuff that both isn't physically real and also stuff that may or may not exist in my consciousness. So this is the lower left quadrant. And like, that's a lot of reality. You almost have to stereotype to even talk about it. What is the old American West? What does it mean to be a goth or an emo kid? These are cultural realities. And the thing is, no matter how goth you are, you could still be more goth. We've seen people who've tested the limits of this. It's inexhaustible. The lower left quadrant, the interior social domain of reality. No single person knows it all. It's a cultural reality. It's a collective brain. It's a pattern that you as an individual can vibe with or agree with or try to embody or try to spread, but no individual person can ever fully represent a political party or an idea based on other ideas. So reality includes this confluence of individual perspectives into a whole domain of just endless, infinite, countless ways to divide people into groups. We are included in the group of Portlanders, podcasters, Stephen King fans. We're also creating a group of just us with our inside jokes and interpersonal story we're creating together. So lower left, we, us, interior, intersubjective. Upper left, me, I, interior, subjective. Good? Left hand is from the self.
I'm having a really hard time figuring out when I should respond and when I should just keep
Do
it
it
cool.
as much as you can.
Okay.
I don't want to drone on because like I could just do a solo tutorial, you know. I like the interplay.
Oh yeah. When it's kind of fun because, you know, I wish I had gotten a little bit of advance notice because, you know, leaning back towards my mysterious job, I take things that are really hard to conceptualize and I make them more digestible. For people who would otherwise really struggle on something that has a big impact on their lives. So,
Honey, this thing's happening fast. I can't even keep up with it. I didn't mean to do that. I just
if I need to translate something, just let me know. I'll step in.
Yeah. I kind of like the impromptu-ness of it. And I welcome you guys to ambush me with shit. I have yet to be ambushed, so keep that in mind.
Especially if you are Ken Wilbur. We would love to hear from you.
If we want to do something like that, somebody's actually got to do something. See, we got to outreach. We need an outreach person. You know whose personality is great for that?
Who's?
Someone else besides me.
Well, is it a little guy?
Yeah, like Wilbur would be awesome. But like there's a ton of people that I would be interested in like connecting with, you know, like other channels and people involved with them. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be really cool.
Anytime there's a reason to reach, I'm gonna reach. Yeah. So we never know what's gonna happen. This is the internet.
So yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm not saying don't sit here on our podcast saying, "Hey, Maynard, come on our show." Like, absolutely.
No, he's got a lot of work to do. Keep making me music. You can stay in your
Maynard.
hole.
Oh, Wilbur's got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do. What am I doing here? Go home, Adam. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any work to do. This is my work.
This is your work.
I love my work. So objective reality now. Because we did the left hand. We're halfway done.
So objective reality, in my opinion, it's like, it's how I imagine a bunch of ants would look like if they were all crawling around with their own VR headsets.
From what perspective?
So reality is your conception of it, right? So it's your own, you're walking around with your own little VR, your little ant, and everything that you see and you feel and you perceive, that's your reality. But an ant, you know, a mile away is going to have a completely different, you know, view and whole thing.
Who's providing this VR to them?
The cosmos. I don't know.
So so it's kind of like islands of reality intersecting through VR.
So yeah, like so.
And it's VR because they're not seeing actual reality; they're seeing a projected reality that they're kind of creating.
They're seeing what they perceive. Like you can have a very different interaction with somebody than they do. Just depending on what words you use, how you use them, your paralanguage, something that you might think this person knows this is an inside joke. This person's going to think, oh, dude, Adam just ripped me a new one for like 30 fucking minutes. So like, that's complete joke.
That's
by
all
the way.
lower left dynamics and a little bit of lower right in terms of like the usage of language and stuff. Shared understanding or shared misunderstanding, just the dynamics that only occur in the relationship between one sentient consciousness and another. And then it would seem that we're in these bodies and that they're in these homes on this planet. So that's also, it might be an illusion, but it is real. If we're, I mean, clearly I don't know anything about it. I just know my projection of it based on knowledge that's bullshit and sensory information that could be bullshit. Okay. So, but to the extent that I understand it to be real, it's real. Objective reality. Okay. You can say things about it that will prove true again and again.
So, most people, Santa Claus isn't real. But at the same point, when you say Santa Claus, do you not see him in your head? Do you not know what he dressed like? Do you not know what he's known for? In a sense, he's totally real. Because we can imagine him walking through that door, which I just
he's real in a lot of senses. Yeah, because there's physical manifestations of Santa Claus all over, but the ideal of Santa Claus exists in that lower left, like collective awareness. Because which mall Santa correctly gets Santa? It's down to the eye of the beholder, or down to the way like the evolution of the image over time, which is a thing you can go into great depth on, like how Santa came to be, how Santa is, and how it changes, and the costume and the weight and the beard and the attitude. So
it's literally different for everybody. And, it's widely accepted that he doesn't physically exist, but he totally does exist, even though it's not physical, because we know about him.
Yeah.
And like, I guess that's like what I'm trying.
Well, and what's crazy too is that lower left image of Santa, that collective image, is made flesh in reality, because we have that. So then we build them and we dress up as him and we make movies about him. So he literally is physically real too. He's not magically flying with magical reindeer, but we could make it happen with like propulsion and camera tricks. And like a large part of our mission is taking the lower left shit and the upper left and bringing it into the right hand objective reality. That's like a big part of the mission of being a human psyche, is like rendering your psyche onto the physical. This is what artists do too, and not just artists, but like pretty much the work of humanity is like rendering our weird mental world onto this like island thingy, Gushers fruit snack. So into that, I wanted to consider a rock, so that because it's a thing. It has weight, it has colors, it's made of quarks. Good. That can be considered in the right hand of reality. It's objectively, scientifically real, can be measured and peer-reviewed to exist, certainly by everyone. That goes on the right-hand side of the exterior objective reality that can be logically proven. Lots of words to say something very straightforward. How do I know that it's a rock? Well, because it's not the first rock I've seen. It's an example of a rock, the category of rock. There's all these rocks around everywhere. The world itself is a rock, sort of. And so we have a word for it, a short word, 4 letters, rock. By this linguistic efficiency metric, rock is equally important as shit, equally fundamental as fuck. I can look at a thing and say, oh, that is most probably this thing that I call a rock. That, sir, is a rock. That boulder, that asteroid, that feldspar, all of them rocks, I say. I can teach my child to know what a rock is and what's not a rock. That rock nature exists in the lower right quadrant, which is objective, physically real groups of things. Another example they use a lot is like a tree is an upper right thing, but a forest is a lower right things. It's a group. The forest has its own attributes. it does its own thing, but it's not just a thing, it's a group of things, right? So grouping is fundamental to the integral perspective. So a rock rolls down a hill, part of a cascading rock slide, which you can describe as though it were a thing in itself. It shifts, it creates a horrible cacophony, it weighs tons and tons, not a rock, but a group of rocks, a rock slide. And of course, the rock is itself a group of sands or molecules, etc. The rock slide is part of a mountain system. The mountain is part of the state of Utah, part of the earth. Each of these is an identity that can be named and described and even measured, given attributes. Wind has a speed, air has a weight. The lower right is just to indicate how systems work, as opposed to like individual anything, right? Because group dynamics come into play and become just as fundamental as group dynamics are in the interior. So that segments reality into 4 quadrants. So returning to the 4 quadrants of reality, a vertical line separates interior and exterior. A horizontal divides reality into individual and collective phenomena. There is a Spencer and I experience, upper left, interior, individual, subjective. There's a podcasting conversation, a we experience, lower left, interior, collective, intersubjective, or metasubjective. There is my eye, there is your webcam. These are it experiences, upper right reality, exterior objective. My eye is an example of eyes. I am an example of people. I am entirely dependent on the English language, a language which also exists in the lower left as a shared cultural reality. Slang can develop, etc. It's also a lower right phenomenon. We're actually entirely dependent on the lower right, just as we're entirely comprised of all 4 quadrants. I live in the concept of a house. I use the concept of a computer on the concept of the internet. I'm currently engaged in the concept of podcasting. I came up with none of this. Integral theory is a lower right reality, as is constitutional democracy, as is thermodynamics. These are systems approaches to physically real problems. The history of evolution, human invention, innovation, and development is the story of the lower right quadrant. Well, one thing that might stand out in this theory of reality is that it's really heavy on consciousness. Half of reality, the left hand half of reality is consciousness. Would this be true for Spencer? Is subjectivity something like half of what is? Is this true for the universe? That's a bit misleading. That's an awful big universe, and Adam's mind is awful little. Is it?
In comparison.
Yeah. Does it seem little to Adam? See, we have a philosophical problem. It's kind of like a paradox in our reality. Everything that I experience is me having this little Adam psyche thing going on. My reality has nothing to do with reality. It doesn't explode stars, this civilization thing. I'm not doing that. I'm barely even participating in it. But this little atom thing is literally everything to me. Without it, I'm nothing. I've been dead. Part of reality, the universe is being atom. Obviously, I'm not part of what the universe is doing. So, if the universe, atoms as atom, thinks that it is experiencing the self as half of reality, then it would stand to reason that like the self is half of reality, like the self or the collective or the interiority.
Well, also inside of Adam, there's millions of things, and each individual thing only knows their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like your liver is got a purpose. It's got its one function. For your liver, that's all life is being a liver. Versus your fingers, they have, but I talk a lot with my hands. My fingers don't understand how to digest anything, but they know how to point at things and grab things and give my head little scratchies. And that's their purpose. That's all they conceive. But without any of these fingers, without this liver, without all this stuff, I wouldn't function. To some extent, we have a big impact in the universe, when our life and our, choices interact with others and then they all meld together. Some of the negative sides we have, global warming. That's something that humans created. And on some part, I am part of that scale and I contribute to that. there's big Spencer, all these little things happening inside of me. There's little Spencer. I'm just one person in this big old universe. And then, the universe doesn't even care. Like, its function has nothing to do with little human creatures walking around and doing shit on one planet.
Yeah. And so, we're implicated in everything that's happening if we choose to be. Yeah. Everything we could be morally responsible for everything that ever happens. It's just a choice to be morally responsible for one thing or another. And that's coming down to your value system. I think that one of the things that's so valuable about the quadrants is to realize that, like, when you just talk to people about reality, they will deliver one of them or two of them of the quadrants, and this is reality and this is reality. So it's just to kind of say, like, when you go up and ask people, like, what is reality? You might have somebody talk entirely about interiority. You might hear someone talk entirely about exteriority. You might hear somebody talk about the group, what's happening in the universe, what's happening with civilization. And you might have someone just say, well, I don't know. This is what's happening with me. This is my reality. So all those things are reality. The main thesis too is that people neglect some of them in general. Like, it's safe to say most people you interact with are like kind of not clued into one or two of the quadrants in this may be like due to the work they do or their specialties or their Myers-Briggs type or their developmental stage. But it's to shed light on areas where we don't tend to see that perspective, where we wouldn't normally approach it like, well, this is actually like a first person perspective thing. So we can tend to neglect, like, and apply that to just about any field of endeavor, like in psychology, you have approaches that physically change your brain chemistry, and you have approaches that deal with the way you think about yourself, and you have approaches that deal with the way you relate to other people, and you have approaches that deal with your lifestyle and habits. And really, to heal a messed up psyche, you would want to approach it with all the quadrants at once, because those are all valid solutions. And who knows where the problem really, the origin of the problem really comes from. We would expect it to arise in 4 quadrants and be healed in 4 quadrants.
Can you give me an example of one problem and how the 4 different quadrants would approach it, or how you would use
it? Let's say that someone is like allergic to their own sexuality, which is to say, like, whenever sex comes up or sexuality, or like boobs are on TV or something, they get really uncomfortable. They act neurotic. They might do things that they regret, like shout at people or like throw something. Right. So there's this, like,
when I show my boobs, I get yelled at. So that makes sense. Go ahead.
You get yelled at for it. So this person has like an aversion to sexuality. So we could even call it like pathological if it's creating problems for them, if it's getting in the way of them getting what they want out of life. So they have some sort of sexual pathology, right? So an upper left perspective would seek to develop within that person a really solid understanding of their own mind, and to open them up to perceiving more of reality, to just understanding more of what is known from their own firsthand perspective. So working with them on what their perspective is. And it gets a little bit into the lower left there too, but like a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy is just challenging the things you say in your own head about yourself and the tone that you say them in. So that being one approach. Another approach might just be meditation, a meditation practice, or like anger management practices that are firsthand. They're like directly supposed to change the way you're thinking and the way your heart and mind are operating together from the firsthand perspective. The way you see things, whether you see them as good or bad. Lower left, you would be, in general, you would be approaching the problem in terms of your relationships with people. So we would want to find out where the origin of that pathology was in terms of your like abusive, most likely relationships, or startling experiences with sex that you've had throughout your life, or maybe traumatic experiences with sex, maybe ideas you have about yourself that you got from other people, and start dialoguing with people and creating a new script for yourself that you present to the world as this version of you that doesn't have this pathology, and trying to live that script and trying to be in a community of people who live that script. So that's a very lower left way to approach it. Upper right, we're dealing with physical reality, the brain chemistry that generates this, the posture that creates this, the organ problems that create this, the sicknesses, environmental contagions that might be causing it. So bodily causes of sickness and bodily cures for sickness, physical remedies, home remedies, herbs, dietary, medication, therapeutic treatments, surgery, so all this stuff is upper right. It's just attacking the physical hardware of the problem. Then lower right, the system approach is going to be focused a lot on behavioral and lifestyle stuff. So just like, try doing this every day, try not doing this, like make a plan for this. Like, what is the structure of your life and what is the structure of the system that you're in right now? Does the fucking, is your workplace just like a stressor for anybody? Or is it, underwhelming for anybody, etc.? So just looking at the system that you're in, like maybe you're perfectly fine and you're in a horrible prison camp, and it's like, actually you're fine psychologically, you're just in an endlessly traumatic situation, so we need to get you out of there physically. That's a bad system. So there's like 4 quadrants that could be applied to one mental pathology having to do, in this particular case, with sexuality, just because I just randomly farted out some sort of pathological thing.
So if I'm getting this correctly, a particular individual has a hard time viewing sex on the television. The top left is, why does my brain associate this with such a negative, feeling? The bottom left would be, how is my, aversion to this TV show or whatever affecting my societal role? Am I following along so far?
It's the cultural, yeah. Like, how is this informed by the people around me, the media, my doctors? What's the social?
So why is society making me feel like?
And my relationships, like my interpersonal and family relationships. Just the collective interior, I think in this case is going to have a lot to do with family dynamics and the way you relate to your friends and support group and therapists and things like that.
Okay.
So what emerges in the interpersonal, the difference between the two collective ones is a little tough, systems and infrastructure versus shared collective reality.
So, like, is my community feeling the same thing I'm feeling? Should we band against this TV show? Or, should we talk about this and normalize it? Is that kind of like an approach for the lower left?
Sure, yeah. Or like, is this person toxic, in my opinion? Or like, am I...
So how would somebody toxic affect your ability to watch sex on TV?
Like, the person could be overly flirtatious, or they could be...
So are you talking about the same problem from 4 different aspects, 4 different quadrants?
I was attempting to, yeah. I was taking the quadrants and applying them to a therapeutic approach to mental illness.
So maybe the lower left is this a TV show bothering me, or is this an actual human bothering me?
Totally.
Okay.
See, there's a billion, this is all of reality. So I'm just taking like I'm just throwing out like a cornucopia for each quadrant. Like, there's a lot of different therapies that exist to treat mental illness.
And I'm also pointing to the I think I've got the correct points for left and right, by the way. I'm trying to figure it out. So now we got the lower right because we're moving in a square. That would be the physical reality.
It's objective.
Shared physical, objective.
And collective, yep.
Okay, so how would we associate the problem through the lower right?
So just thinking of systems here and infrastructure and like the therapy itself is a lower right phenomenon because it's a system of therapy with a system of with like a faculty, and standards. That's system stuff.
So
just one example.
So for the lower right, can I, I'm going to therapy because I don't want to watch this thing on TV?
Because I don't want to watch this on TV because the media is
maybe
toxic.
A different example would be better.
That's an example. I had to think about it because there's so much stuff in the lower right? But another example would just be like how the way that, like the way the media portrays sex and women could be having an effect on you. The existence of TikTok has actually had a profound effect on human sexuality.
So would you think the lower right would be, how is my aversion to this TV show or this stuff on TV affecting my ability to communicate with friends? Like if someone's like, hey, did you watch that show? And I'm like, I don't even want to start. I don't like sex on TV. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's looking at it in the lower right. I mean, in our opinion, probably there's nothing wrong with the media here, but the problem is it's a lower right thing. There's a system that's putting out material that's offending you. So that you can take that approach to it and say like, well, we could put you in a system that doesn't expose you to any pornography or sex. That's a solution.
And then upper right would be a physical, but your person. And that would be like, oh, why don't you just put sunglasses on so you can't really see it?
That works, yeah.
So that's a pretty good summary of like the upper right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out. We're
in any field or any problem solving, like it helps to just go like, okay, what's the like upper left on this? What's the lower right on this? Like what? And be cautious, when you're having cognitive dissonance, just be like, is this a quadrant thing? Could this be like free will versus determinism is a pretty old conflict of the mind, a cognitive dissonance thing. It's a quadrants thing.
So is it more like I need to use all quadrants to tackle this problem, or is it I should figure out where this problem's lying in the scale to see the best way to approach it?
Yeah, some tasks will require like a quadrant fundamentalist approach, but an integral approach will include the quadrants. So you might not always want the integral approach, but what it does is it prevents things from being left out. Like if I have a back problem and my thought is that the only thing I can do about my back problem is see a chiropractor. My back doesn't get better. I'm doing this, but it's not getting better. I'm only applying a one quadrant approach. It might require different quadrants. This is kind of a cheap example, but just to say that when we have political problems, when we have climate problems, when we have life problems.
I keep yawning. I'm having a really hard time breathing today.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, when these are very, very often the blind spots, the philosophical blind spots or the ideological. When people have ideology and they're pushing it, they're pushing against quadrants. They're pushing against the other quadrant a lot of the time. It started with just saying what is reality, and people might reduce that to quarks, or they might expand it to the Big Bang or the rules of the universe. Well, that's all just physical reality. To me, it would seem that the experience of being is central also. Consciousness is also central. So in this perspective, it starts with the non-dual understanding, which then expands into an understanding that there is a created objective and subjective reality, and that not the smallest thing, not the biggest thing, but the thing that's happening always right now in every situation is the actual center that you start at in reality and expand outward from there. And it's one way to perceive reality, rather than seeing reality as constructed by people or seeing it as made up of tiny things. It's just this like, well, actually reality is all that stuff at once, and it can't just be one of them, because they all live on top of one another. They all co-emerge. So that was my thing on quadrants, and I did states and stages too. But I feel like we've done good tonight.
We got a lot covered.
So like, do you feel like you understand quadrants?
I feel like I understand it a little bit more. I feel like we talked through it. I'm probably going to want to do a little more research on the side.
Well, you were on the spot too. I'll bet if you when you'll watch back at one point and you'll be like, oh yeah, I totally get it.
100%.
I think you do too anyways. So yeah, that's one of the three things to integral theory, and it sounds like stages.
Oh yay.
We can talk about states too.
Arizona. Like Georgia?
Yeah.
I've got some really cool ghost stories, graveyards. If I was going to visit Georgia, I would totally just check out cemeteries. I think it's that what is that shit?
I'd go to Georgia and just go to the cemetery and just be happy that like all those Georgians are there in the ground.
Oh no.
Oh wait, is that a hot take? Do people like Georgians?
Oh, I was trying to be nice, but I'm sure there's shitty Georgians and
We
great
love our
Georgians.
Georgians. We love our Georgians. I don't know
the country, the state,
I
either
don't know
way.
any Georgians.
Neither do
I feel like
I know
Georgians don't know me.
Oh, Molly's from Georgia.
Oh, well, there you go. There's Molly. Molly's great.
And her parents. Yeah, they're great.
We love our Georgians.
Georgia's great.
Yeah. Way, I think we should tie a ribbon on this one. This has been a lovely evening podcast. Again, we're just trying new things all the time. I'm trying to figure out what to do with the nighttime session with Spencer. We've come up with the idea that we're going to, along with having other stuff going on, we're going to make it a sort of feminine evening together. And I am feeling pretty resolved on keeping integral theory a topic. And I think it's a great opportunity to introduce some of these topics. And I want to go far afield with it too, because a lot of times, you're always just in the basics and covering the theory. I really love the idea of, like, as the theory catches on, bringing it into shit that like nobody else is bringing it into. I want to prepare shorter stuff, but the problem is I start preparing it and I have a really good time. So I will say, I know that when I did the prepared one with James, it was irritating to him and I felt really bad about it. And then I edited it, and watching it back, I love it. It's like my favorite thing.
If you had something written down, you could even just take a picture of it and send it to me like an hour in advance.
I didn't finish it an hour in advance. You don't understand how to the wire things are for me right now.
No, I know
there's so much shit I like need to do before I sleep tonight.
Oh no. So how do we end it?
We say good night to our friends. We say that it's been lovely having you here, and we're still trying stuff out. Let us know if you don't like it, or you want it to change, you don't want it to change. We're going to change anyways. We're going to keep changing always. That's what we do. We're unThinkMe. This is our nighttime podcast with Spencer and Adam.
I appreciate you bearing with us and learning and growing, and I just hope you have beautiful, sweet dreams.
I have not come up with a good girl name yet. I need some help with that.
You want a girl name for your name?
Well, I'm gonna try and find one that I can handle. Check out this piano note. It's not gonna happen now in real life. It's gonna happen.
I have to post at it. I'll never know.
Stop this crazy thing.